The sun had already begun to bleed out across the cracked red plain when they dragged Sonali from the horse. Her wrists were bound so tight the rope had turned black with her blood. 3 days of riding, 3 nights without water, and still she had not cried out once. The warriors respected that even as they hated her for it. She was Niol's daughter, and Niol had killed too many of their brothers to ever be forgiven. Red Sleeves, her own uncle, was the one who cinched the final knot around the Joshua tree. The tree stood alone, arms twisted toward a merciless sky, needles sharp as Comanche lances. 6 men had died on those branches in the last 10 years, all of them white, all of them wearing spurs. The cowboys called it the Cowboy's tree. The Apaches called it where men learn silence. Red Sleeves stepped back and looked at his work. Sonali's bare feet barely touched the ground. Her arms were stretched high above her head, her torn deerskin dress hanging in ribbons. The wind lifted her long black hair and whipped it across her face like a mourning veil. "You should have died with your father," he said in Apache. "I will die when the spirits call me," she answered, voice raw but steady. "Not when cowards decide." His hand struck her hard across the mouth. Blood ran from her lip, bright against her copper skin. She smiled anyway. They left her a canteen just out of reach, 3 paces away, lying on its side so the precious water soaked into the thirsty earth. Then they carved the message into the trunk with a skinning knife. "For the Devil Rider. Come alone or she dies slow." They rode away laughing, 20 warriors strong, their ponies kicking up red dust that hung in the air like smoke from a burning village. Sonali closed her eyes and waited. The first day was fire. The sun cooked her alive. Her tongue swelled until she could not swallow. She watched buzzards circle lower and lower, patient as bankers. When the sun finally dropped behind the mountains, she thought the worst was over. But then came the cold. Desert nights are crueler than desert days. The wind cut through the shreds of her dress and found every cut, every bruise. She shivered so hard the ropes sawed deeper into her wrists. On the second day, she began to see things. Her little brother Taza walked toward her across the plain, barefoot, carrying his small bow. He smiled and waved. She tried to call his name, but no sound came. When she blinked, he was gone, and the buzzards were closer. By the 3rd night, she no longer knew if she was alive. The moon rose huge and orange, the color of old blood. She hung from the tree like a broken doll and waited for the Devil Rider to come and do what men always do to women they hate. She had heard the stories. The white man in black who rode with the Rangers, who never spoke, who could put a bullet through a hawk's eye at 400 yards. They said he had led the raid on her winter camp. They said he had stood in the doorway of her mother's wickiup and fired until nothing moved. They said he laughed while the flames ate her. Brother's hair. She hated him more than she feared him, and she feared him very much. The hoofbeats came after. Midnight, slow, deliberate, 1 horse. She forced her swollen eyes open. He came riding out of the dark as though the night itself had given him shape. Tall in the saddle, black coat flapping like crow wings, hat pulled low. The horse was a blood bay Mustang, lean and wicked, ears flat against its skull. Moonlight slid along the barrel of the Winchester in the scabbard. He stopped 20 paces away and sat there, looking at her. She lifted her head. If this was the end, she would meet it with open eyes. He dismounted. His boots made no sound on the hard earth. He walked forward until he stood directly beneath her. Up close, she saw the scar that ran from his left ear to the corner of his mouth, pale against the sunburned skin. His eyes were the pale gray of winter sky before a blizzard. He studied her for a long time, saying nothing. Then he drew his knife. She braced herself. The blade flashed once, twice. The ropes parted and she fell. He caught her before she hit the ground, 1 arm around her waist, the other supporting her knees. She weighed nothing. 3 days without food or water had burned everything unnecessary away. He carried her to where his coat lay across the saddle and wrapped it around her. The wool still held his warmth. It smelled of wood smoke, horse, and something else she could not name. She tried to stand. Her legs betrayed her. He held her up until the world stopped spinning. His voice, when it came, was low and rough, like gravel under boot heels. "I'm not going to hurt you." She laughed, a cracked sound that hurt her throat. Every man who ever said that to a woman was lying. Not this time. He walked to his horse, took the canteen, unscrewed the cap, and held it to her lips. She drank greedily, water spilling down her chin and onto the coat. When she had taken enough, he capped it and hung it on his saddle horn. From the ridge came a shout in Apache. "Take her, devil! Do what you came to do. We are watching." 20 rifles glinted in the moonlight. The man looked up at the ridge, then back at her. "They want a show," he said. She spat blood. "Then give them one they'll choke on." He almost smiled. Almost. Instead, he did something that turned her world sideways. He dropped to one knee in the dust, removed his hat, and bowed his head. "My name is Caleb Black," he said, speaking to the ground as though it were a chief. 3 months ago, I rode with Captain Hargrove's company. I was there the night your camp burned. But I swear by every god that ever listened to a dying man, I did not fire a single shot into a wickiup. I pulled your brother Taza from the flames. He was already dead when I found him. I carried him out and wrapped him in my slicker so the fire would not take his face. I buried him under a cairn of stones by the river and laid his little bow on top. Sonali felt the world tilt. She swayed. I rode back to camp, he continued, still on his knee, and told Hargrove I was done. He put $500 on my head the next morning. I have been running ever since. He looked up then. His eyes were wet. Your father saved my life once 10 years ago in the Dragoon Mountains. I was 16, running from Comancheros who had killed my family. He could have taken my scalp. Instead, he gave me water, a horse, and a name for myself. He said, "Live long enough to pay the debt, White Eye." He stood slowly. "Tonight, I pay it." Another shout from the ridge, angrier now. Red Sleeves stepped forward into the moonlight, rifle raised. "You think your words buy her life, devil?" "I think," Caleb said, "that some debts are heavier than hate." He turned his back on the ridge, a thing no man should ever do with 20 rifles pointed at him, and unbuckled his gun belt. The heavy Colt thumped into the dust. Then he drew the Winchester, levered the round out, and laid the rifle gently on the ground. He was unarmed. Sonali found her voice. "They will kill you. They will try." He looked at her then, really looked, and she saw something in his face she had never seen on any man's before. Sorrow so deep it had carved itself into the bones. "I am sorry for your brother," he said. "I am sorry for your father. I'm sorry for every child who will never again run laughing through the cottonwoods because of what white men did. I cannot fix the world. I can only do this one thing right." He walked to his horse and held out the reins. She stared at them as though they were a trick. "Ride," he said. "I cannot leave you to die. You can and you will. Your father's blood runs in you. It is stronger than their hate." From the ridge, Red Sleeves screamed, "She stays. You both die." Sonali looked at her uncle, at the warriors she had grown up with, men who had once carried her on their shoulders when she was small. She saw the madness in their eyes, the kind of madness that only endless war can breed. She walked forward on legs that barely worked, and placed herself between Caleb and the rifles. "No," she said in Apache, loud enough for every man to hear. "This ends tonight. This man carried my brother from fire. He buried him with honor. He kneels unarmed before you to pay a debt older than your grievances. If you kill him, you kill the last honorable thing my father ever did. You kill what little is left of us." Silence fell, thick as winter fog. Red Sleeves' rifle wavered. Sonali kept speaking, her voice growing stronger with every word. "I am Neol's daughter. I say the debt is paid. I say this man rides free and I ride with him. If any man here disagrees, let him shoot me first." She spread her arms wide, standing in front of Caleb like a shield made of rage and grief and unbreakable will. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, one by one, the rifles lowered. Red Sleeves was the last. He spat on the ground, a sound full of poison, but he lowered the rifle too. "Go," he snarled. "Both of you. But if I ever see your face again, devil, I will skin you slow." Caleb picked up his guns, buckled the Colt, slid the Winchester home. Then he mounted and reached down for Sonali. She took his hand and swung up behind him. Her arms went around his waist without thinking. His body was warm and solid and alive. They rode west, slow at first because she was weak, then faster as the moon climbed. The wind dried the tears on her cheeks before they could fall. After many miles she spoke, her mouth near his ear so he could hear over the hoofbeats. "Where are you taking me?" "Mexico. There is a village south of Llanos where an old woman owes me her son's life. She will hide you until the army and the warriors both forget your name. And then you live. You grow old. You tell your children what courage looks like when it wears a white man's skin." She was quiet for a long time. "And you?" she asked finally. "I ride north. Montana maybe. Cold country. Good for forgetting." She pressed her cheek against his back. Beneath the coat she could feel his heart beating, steady and strong. "Will you forget me, Caleb Black?" He did not answer for so long she thought the wind had stolen the question. Then, so softly, she almost missed it. "Some things a man is not allowed to forget. He only learns how to carry them without breaking." They rode on through the night and into the red dawn. Behind them, the cowboy's tree stood alone again, arms raised to a sky that had seen too much blood. Years later, old vaqueros in Sonora would speak of a tall gringo who came every April to a certain adobe in the hills. He never stayed more than an hour. He left a bundle of desert golden poppies on the doorstep, touched the brim of his hat to the woman who opened the door, and rode away without a word. The woman had proud Apache eyes and a scar on her lip that never quite faded. She kept the flowers in a clay jar above the hearth until the next year. When new ones came, she never married. Her children, 3 sons with their father's gray eyes and their mother's black hair, grew up hearing a story about a night under a twisted tree when hate almost won, but did not. And if you ride out to the cowboy's tree today, when the wind is still and the moon is full, you can see where someone long ago carved 2 names deep into the wood, side by side, with a knife that knew both mercy and vengeance. Sonali Caleb. The desert has tried to erase them for more than a century. It has failed. Love, it turns out, is harder than Joshua Wood.